Hello and welcome. I'm Noelle, and this is UnDrowning Beyond Sobriety, where I will be sharing my journey of surfacing after years of drowning my soul with alcohol and how I've found the love, liberation, and purpose waiting for me above the water. First of all, thank you for joining me here. It means so much to me that you've chosen to spend any amount of your time with me today. Um, as this is my first episode, I thought that I would share a bit about why I am here and what my intentions are with this podcast. So, this is a relatively last minute decision for me. I've never really had plans to start a podcast, but I'm currently going through this really big transitional period in my life. I've just recently, in the last couple months, stepped away from an extremely toxic work environment, which has basically led to a complete reevaluation and re-examination, really, of my life, and by obvious extension, my dreams and passions. It's been a really intense couple of months, and as I've sort of been processing the closing of that previous chapter and trying to reconfigure my life into something that is more in alignment with where I am now, who I am, and really what I want my life to be. It's been so strange and also really encouraging and exciting to realize that this shift is really a result of how much growth and healing has been happening in my life lately. It feels really good to see results that prove all this work I've been doing is actually affecting change in my life in a very real way. Even if I'm sort of in this very uncomfortable liminal space right now where there are so many unknowns and uncertainties, I just honestly have so much trust in the process right now, and I'm kind of just allowing myself to surrender to it as best I can. Even if I don't know what's next for me or exactly where I'm headed, at least I know that I've broken free from the cycle of staying trapped in the familiar routine of something that was just no longer serving me. And now I'm in a space where the possibilities are endless. I'm surrounded by limitless potential right now. And I think that as long as I stay true to myself and I honor my own truth and authenticity, I keep doing the work to heal and really nourish my soul, everything is going to fall into place even better than I could possibly imagine. And I really do believe that. So, dovetailing off of that, something that keeps coming up for me so strongly lately is this almost palpable calling to share myself. It's honestly, I don't even know how to accurately describe the feeling, other than that it's coming from deep within and it feels important somehow. So I'm sort of taking that as a message from my higher self, if you will, that it's something I'm meant to do. So I haven't really known what that means yet necessarily, or what that was going to look like, but it recently occurred to me that my recovery journey is an experience that is worth sharing. And not because it's particularly special or interesting, really, and not because I have any authority on the matter of sobriety, but because I think it is extremely important to have as many different representations of recovery available to people as possible. Recovery is an extremely unique and personal experience, just as we are all unique individuals with our own life experiences, our own thoughts, ideas, beliefs, and ways of moving through the world. I mean, these are the things that really shape the form our recovery will end up taking. And I think that for many of us, when we think of recovery from alcohol addiction, our minds automatically go to the more traditional paths, such as AA, 12-step programs, going to meetings, maybe even rehab. And I would just like to go ahead right now and clarify that I am not in any way here to knock any of those methods whatsoever. I recognize them as perfectly valid and necessary for many, even life-saving. I mean, there are people who it would not be safe for them to just suddenly decide to stop drinking without medical assistance. You know, some people need to detox to safely begin their recovery journey. So I'm definitely not here to say that's not the way, don't do it that way, do it my way. I'm just here to say that yes, that is one way, and here is the way that I'm doing it, which is just as valid. I know that for me, the traditional paths just didn't really resonate, and I know that I'm not the only one who feels that way. Recovery is just not a one-size-fits-all solution. What works for one person is not always going to work for the next. What works for me is not going to work for everybody. But my hope is that by sharing my story, my version of recovery, maybe I can help others out there who may be struggling in similar ways that I was, to feel empowered to take steps toward crafting their own version of recovery that works for them. I also hope that by sharing my story, anyone out there struggling through their own personal battle with alcohol will maybe find some comfort in knowing that they are so far from alone. I know that when I was caught up in that struggle still, I felt so completely alone, especially because it was so hard for me to really identify the problem. I didn't look like the traditional alcoholic, which, just in case it's necessary for me to clarify this, there is no one way for someone battling addiction to look. But I didn't fit the usual stereotype or even my own understanding of what an alcoholic should look like based on my personal experience of growing up with an alcoholic father. I wasn't physically dependent on alcohol. I never got the shakes. I didn't have to drink every single day. I could still hold a job and be a mostly functional member of society. I could also go long periods of time without drinking alcohol at all, which I would often do to sort of reset and clear my head. But really, what I was doing was making sure that I could go without for extended periods of time to prove to myself I wasn't an alcoholic. So all it really did was make me feel even more justified in picking it back up again whenever I was feeling ready, because, well, surely if I can go 2 weeks or 2 months without drinking, I must not have a problem with alcohol. So the cycle would continue, and I would be stuck in this limbo of feeling confident that I don't have a drinking problem while simultaneously feeling awful about my relationship to alcohol and feeling awful as a direct result of drinking alcohol. And yeah, I don't know. This for me was a terribly lonely place to be because I never felt like my drinking was problematic enough, even though it was actually extremely problematic, which I will share all about in a later episode. But I never felt like it was really problematic enough based on that, false model I had in my head of what alcoholism was, to warrant acknowledging that it was like a true problem. So all of my inner turmoil, like from my complicated feelings around alcohol, I mostly kept to myself. There were very few people I shared openly with about the shame I felt around drinking. And there was essentially nobody I could openly share that I was suffering from addiction with because I couldn't even acknowledge and admit that fully to myself for so long. Though realistically, I suspected for years that my relationship to alcohol was severely problematic. I kept finding myself in the same pattern of rationalizing, desiring a quote unquote healthy relationship to alcohol, attempting to moderate, inevitably overdoing it, and then finding myself riddled with shame and anxiety. And that is pretty much the cycle that I was basically a slave to for over a decade. And the shame and anxieties only intensified over time until it was absolutely unbearable, until being me had become unbearable. So I've come here today to begin this journey of sharing myself and sharing my story with you. I share this in hopes that perhaps my words will reach the ears of those who would benefit from hearing what I have to say. I share this to hopefully provide some sense of comfort or inspiration to those who may need it. I share this to honor my own truth, my recovery, my story, and myself, the version of me who suffered for years by her own hand, and the version of me who consciously chooses every day to liberate herself from that suffering. I share this for anyone out there who is where I've been before, and I share this for their liberation. I share this to connect. I share this to heal. So if you've made it this far, thank you again for joining me. I really am so excited to begin this journey with you and to see how this podcast evolves. I have so many ideas and stories to share, topics I want to cover, deep dives I want to do. But I also would love to hear from you guys. So please let me know if you have anything in particular that you would like to hear me talk about. And I will definitely see if I can figure out how to fit those ideas into my loose itinerary. All right. Again, my name is Noelle, and this has been UnDrowning. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with me. If this spoke to you at all, I would love for you to come back and join me for the next episode where I'll be diving more deeply into my story and my personal history with alcohol. Until then, remember, you're not alone, and there's always light at the surface.